The imperial palace floated above the crystal seas of Valoria Prime like a mountain made of silver and glass. It was the most beautiful building in 12 star systems. Kings and queens from distant worlds came here to bow before the throne. Warriors trembled at the mention of its name. Scientists dreamed of studying its ancient technology. But inside this palace, in a small room on the highest floor, a little girl sat alone in the dark. Princess Lyra was 7 cycles old. She had violet eyes like her mother and silver hair that fell past her shoulders. Once, she had been the happiest child in the empire. She used to run through the palace halls laughing. She used to sing songs that her father taught her. She used to believe that nothing bad could ever happen to her. That was before the war took her father away. Now, Princess Lyra did not laugh. She did not sing. She did not speak at all. For 2 years, she had not said a single word. The doctors called it selective mutism. The priests called it a curse. The servants simply called her the impossible child. Queen Sira stood in her throne room and watched her daughter through the security monitors. The queen was tall and powerful, with eyes like polished silver and a voice that could command armies. She had conquered planets. She had ended wars. She had made the Velen Empire the strongest force in the known galaxy. But she could not make her daughter speak. The door behind her opened, and her chief advisor walked in. His name was Minister Gao, and he had served the royal family for 60 years. "Your Majesty," he said with a bow. "The 15th caregiver has resigned." Queen Sarah did not turn around. How long did this one last? 4 hours. What happened? Minister Gao hesitated. "The princess bit her. Quite badly. The caregiver is in the medical bay now. She says the princess is broken beyond repair." Queen Sira finally turned. Her silver eyes were cold, but somewhere deep inside them there was pain. "My daughter is not broken." "Of course not, Your Majesty. I only repeat what was said." The queen walked to the window and looked out at the crystal seas below. 15 caregivers in 2 months. She had hired the best in the galaxy. Telepathic nannies who could read minds. Emotion-sensing caretakers who could feel what others felt. Shape-shifting companions who could become anything a child needed. None of them had lasted more than a week. "What am I supposed to do?" Queen Sira whispered. It was not a question she would ask in front of her court, but Minister Gao had known her since she was a child herself. "Perhaps," he said carefully, "the princess does not need another professional. Perhaps she needs something different." Different how? But Minister Gao had no answer. Far below the royal chambers, in the maintenance tunnels that ran beneath the palace like veins beneath skin, a human man pushed a cleaning cart through the darkness. His name was Park Taeho. He was 42 years old, with kind eyes and rough hands and gray hair starting to show at his temples. He wore the simple gray uniform of palace maintenance staff. Nobody important ever looked at him. To the nobles and officials who walked past him every day, he was invisible. Taeho did not mind being invisible. He was not here for glory or recognition. He was here for one reason only: his daughter. Her name was Hana. She was 12 years old, and she lived on Earth, in a small apartment in Seoul. 3 years ago, the doctors had found something wrong with her heart. The treatment was expensive, more expensive than anything Taeho could afford on Earth. So he had taken an off-world contract. The Velen Empire paid their workers well, even the janitors. Every month, Taeho sent credits home. Every month, he received a video message from Hannah, telling him about school, about her friends, about the cat she had adopted. Every month, his heart broke a little more. Tonight, Taeho was cleaning the corridors near the royal wing. He was not supposed to be here. Humans were not allowed near the royal chambers without special permission. But the regular cleaner was sick, and someone had to do the work. He mopped the floors slowly, carefully. The palace was beautiful, even in these service corridors. The walls glowed with soft blue light. The floors were made of some kind of stone that never got dirty, which made Taeho wonder why they needed janitors at all. Then he heard it, crying. Taeho stopped mopping. The sound was coming from behind a large metal door at the end of the corridor. It was not loud crying, not screaming or wailing. Just soft, quiet sobs, the kind of crying that happened when someone had been sad for so long that they did not have the energy for anything more. Taeho knew that kind of crying. He had heard it from Hana, in those terrible months after her mother left them. He had heard it from himself, late at night, when no one was watching. He looked at the door. There was a sign on it in Veilon script. He could not read Veilon, but he recognized the royal symbol. This was the princess's room. Taeho knew he should walk away. He was nobody, a human, a janitor. If anyone caught him near the princess's quarters, he could lose his job. He could be deported. He could lose everything he had worked for. But the crying continued. And Taeho thought about his own daughter, alone on Earth, waiting for him to come home. He did not open the door. He did not knock. He simply sat down on the floor, his back against the cold metal wall, and he began to hum. It was an old song, a Korean lullaby that his grandmother had taught him when he was small. She used to sing it on winter nights when the world outside was cold and dark. The song was about staying warm, about finding light in the darkness, about knowing that morning would come. Taeho hummed softly, not expecting anything, not trying to fix anything, just being there. The crying stopped. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then Taeho heard something. A small sound. Footsteps, maybe. Someone moving closer to the door. He kept humming. When the song ended, he sat there for another minute. Then he stood up, picked up his mop, and went back to work. He did not know that cameras had recorded everything. He did not know that somewhere in the palace, a queen was watching. He did not know that his simple act of kindness had started something that would change the galaxy. He only knew that a crying child had stopped crying. And sometimes, that was enough. The next night, Taeho told himself he would not go back. It was too dangerous, too foolish. He was a janitor, not a therapist. What could he possibly offer to an alien princess? But when his shift ended and the corridors grew quiet, he found his feet carrying him back to that door. The crying had already started by the time he arrived, soft and lonely, like rain falling on an empty street. Taeho sat down in his usual spot, his back against the wall, and began to hum. This time, he chose a different song. A folk song about a fisherman waiting for the tide to change. His grandmother used to say that all sadness was like the tide. It came in strong and powerful, but it always went back out again. You just had to wait. The crying stopped faster this time. Maybe after 10 seconds. Maybe less. Taeho kept humming until the song was done. Then he sat in the comfortable silence for a while before going back to work. The third night, he did not hum. Instead, he talked. He talked about nothing important. He told the closed door about his day. About the stubborn stain on Deck 7 that refused to come out no matter what chemicals he used. About the strange purple fruit they had served in the workers' cafeteria that tasted like a mix of apple and fish. About how he missed Earth sometimes, especially the way the air smelled after rain. He talked about Hana, about how she used to hate vegetables until he learned to hide them in dumplings. About how she cried when her goldfish died and they had a funeral in the backyard. About how proud he was when she learned to ride a bicycle, even though she fell down 17 times first. He did not know if anyone was listening. He did not know if anyone cared. But talking made him feel less alone. And maybe it made someone else feel less alone too. On the fourth night, the door opened. Just a crack, just enough for a single violet eye to peer out at him through the gap. Taeho did not jump up. He did not smile too wide or speak too loud. He had raised a daughter. He knew that scared children were like scared animals. Any sudden movement could make them run. He simply looked at the eye, nodded once, and said, "Tough day, huh?" "Yeah, me too." The eye blinked. Then the door closed again. But before it shut completely, Taeho heard something. A small sound, quick and quiet. It might have been a laugh. Taeho smiled to himself and went back to work. Far above, in the security monitoring room, Queen Sira watched the recording for the 17th time. Her silver eyes were fixed on the screen, on the image of a human janitor sitting outside her daughter's door. Minister Gao stood beside her. his hands folded behind his back. "This is highly irregular," he said. "The human has no clearance to be in the royal wing. He has violated at least 6 protocols. I know. General Hong suggests we dismiss him immediately. He says human contact could contaminate the princess's development. I know." Minister Gao paused. "But you are not going to dismiss him." Queen Sarah did not answer right away. She watched the recording again. The human sitting in the dim corridor. The human humming his strange Earth song. The human talking about nothing, about everything, about a daughter he clearly loved very much. And then the door opening. Just a crack. Just for a moment. Her daughter had not opened that door for anyone in 2 years. "Bring him to me," Queen Sarah said. The summons came the next morning. Taeho was in the middle of cleaning the transport bay when 2 palace guards appeared beside him. "Park Taeho?" one of them asked. Taeho's heart dropped. They knew. Someone had seen him. He was going to lose his job. His visa. Everything. Hana's treatments would stop. She would die, and it would be his fault for being stupid, for thinking he could help someone he had no business helping. "Yes," he managed to say. "Come with us. The queen wishes to see you." The throne room was bigger than any building Taeho had ever been in. The ceiling was so high that clouds actually formed near the top. The floor was made of white stone that reflected light like a mirror. At the far end, on a throne carved from a single crystal, sat Queen Sarah. Taeho walked forward on shaking legs. He had never been in the presence of royalty before. He had never been in the presence of anyone more important than his apartment building manager. He stopped at the proper distance and bowed low. He did not know if humans were supposed to bow to Velen queens, but it seemed like the right thing to do. "Rise," Queen Sarah said. Her voice was cold and powerful, like wind blowing across ice. Taeho stood up. He kept his eyes on the floor. "Your Majesty, I apologize for my actions. I know I was not supposed to be near the royal quarters. I will accept whatever punishment you." "Why did you do it?" The question surprised him. He looked up without meaning to and found himself staring directly into the queen's silver eyes. They were not angry. They were curious. "Why did I do what, Your Majesty? Why did you sit outside my daughter's door? Why did you sing to her? Why did you talk to her about fish and fruit and bicycle lessons?" Taeho swallowed. "I heard her crying. She sounded lonely. I know what it is like to be lonely. I thought maybe she just needed someone to be there, not to fix anything, not to ask anything, just to be there." Queen Sarah was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different, softer, almost human. 15 caregivers, she said. "I have hired 15 of the finest caregivers in the galaxy. Telepaths, empaths, shapeshifters. Each one came with the highest qualifications. Each one promised to heal my daughter." She stood up from her throne and walked down the steps toward him. Taeho resisted the urge to step back. "They all failed," the queen continued. "Some lasted weeks. Some lasted days. One lasted 4 hours. My daughter would not speak to any of them. She would not look at any of them. She attacked them, hid from them, drove them away." She stopped in front of Taeho. Up close, she was terrifying. Beautiful and powerful and ancient in a way that made him feel very small. "But she opened her door for you," Queen Sarah said. "A human janitor with no qualifications, no training, no credentials. She opened her door for you." Taeho did not know what to say. "I am sorry. Do not apologize. I am offering you a position." Taeho blinked. "A position?" "Royal caretaker to Princess Lyra." For a moment, Taeho was sure he had misheard. "Your Majesty, I am not qualified. I am a janitor. I clean floors. I do not know anything about caring for alien children or royal protocol. Or, neither did the 15 who came before you," Queen Sarah interrupted. "They had degrees. They had training. They had centuries of experience. And they all failed." She tilted her head, studying him like he was a puzzle she could not solve. "What do you have, Park Taeho? What do you have that they did not?" Taeho thought about the question. He thought about Hana, about the nights spent building blanket forts when the world was too scary, about the terrible jokes that made no sense but always got a smile, about sitting in hospital waiting rooms, helpless and afraid, but still there, always there. I guess I just know how to stay, he said. Queen Sarah nodded slowly. Then stay. The news spread through the palace like fire through dry grass. A human had been appointed as royal caretaker. Not a trained professional, not a certified specialist. A janitor, a man who had been cleaning toilets just yesterday. The nobles were horrified. The scientists were confused. The servants whispered in the corridors, trying to decide if the queen had gone mad. Taeho tried to ignore all of it. He had a job to do. On his first official day, he stood outside Princess Lyra's door with a tray of food. The cooks had prepared something fancy. 17 different dishes arranged in perfect patterns. It looked more like art than breakfast. Taeho knocked gently. Good morning. I brought food. I am going to leave it here, okay? You do not have to come out if you do not want to. He set the tray down and sat against the wall. Not directly in front of the door, off to the side, where he would not seem threatening. Then he pulled out his own breakfast. A simple bowl of rice porridge that he had made himself in the staff kitchen. He began to eat, humming softly between bites. 10 minutes passed. 20. 30. The door opened. Princess Lyra stood there, small and thin and pale. Her violet eyes were suspicious. Her silver hair was tangled and messy. She looked at Taeho, then she looked at the fancy tray of food, then she looked back at Taeho. That looks bad, she said. Taeho almost dropped his bowl. She had spoken. The princess who had not said a word in 2 years had just spoken to him. He forced himself to stay calm. The fancy food? Yeah, I thought so too. Too many colors. Food should not have that many colors. Lyra's eyes narrowed. What are you eating? Rice porridge. It is a human food. Very simple. Very boring. But it is warm and it fills your stomach. Lyra stared at the porridge for a long moment. Then she reached out and took Taeho's bowl right out of his hands. He let her take it. She retreated into her room with the bowl. The door closed. But this time, it did not lock. Taeho sat there for another hour, waiting. When the door finally opened again, Lyra pushed the empty bowl back through the gap. More tomorrow, she said. And the door closed. Taeho smiled. It was a start. The days that followed were slow and careful. Taeho did not try to force anything. He did not ask Lyra questions about her feelings. He did not try to make her talk about her father or her sadness or why she had been silent for so long. Instead, he just existed near her. He brought her simple food, rice porridge, noodle soup, dumplings. She rejected the palace food every time, but she always ate what Taeho made. He sat outside her door and talked about his day. Small things, boring things, the weather outside the palace, the funny noise the cleaning machines made, the argument he had heard between 2 cooks about the right way to prepare something called a zeltfish. Sometimes, the door would open. Sometimes, Lyra would sit just inside, listening. She rarely spoke, but she was there. That was enough. After 2 weeks, Taeho tried something new. He brought a stack of paper and sat down in his usual spot. I am going to make something, he said to the closed door. It is called origami, a human art. You fold paper into shapes. My grandmother taught me when I was young. He began to fold. Slowly, carefully. The paper became a crane, a bird with delicate wings and a long neck. When he was done, he held it up. This is a crane. In my country, people believe that if you fold 1,000 cranes, you get 1 wish. I do not know if that is true, but it is nice to believe in something. He set the crane down outside the door and went back to work. The next morning, the crane was gone. Taeho smiled and made another one. After a week, there were 7 cranes. After 2 weeks, 14. Taeho left one every day, and every day, it disappeared into the princess's room. Then came the day when the door opened and Lyra threw a crumpled ball of paper at his head. It does not work, she said. Her voice was angry, frustrated, alive. I tried and it does not look right. Taeho picked up the paper ball and smoothed it out. He could see where she had tried to fold it. The creases were in the wrong places. The corners did not line up. Can I show you? He asked. Lyra hesitated. Then she stepped aside and let him into her room. It was the first time anyone had been inside in 2 years. The room was large and beautiful, but it felt empty. The walls were bare. The toys were untouched. The only signs of life were Taeho's paper cranes, lined up on the windowsill like a tiny army. Taeho sat on the floor. Lyra sat across from him, watching with suspicious eyes. Okay, Taeho said. The first fold is the hardest. You have to be very precise. Here, watch. He showed her slowly, step by step. She tried to copy him. Her crane came out lopsided, with one wing bigger than the other. This is stupid, Lyra said. She crumpled it up and threw it across the room. Taeho did not react. He just picked up another piece of paper and started again. Lyra tried again. And again. And again. Each time, the crane came out wrong. Each time. She crumpled it up in frustration. On the 21st attempt, something changed. The folds were not perfect. The wings were still a little uneven, but it was recognizable. It was a crane. Lyra held it up, her violet eyes wide with surprise. Taeho took the crane from her hands and examined it carefully. Then he stood up, walked to his cleaning cart that he had left outside, and placed the crane right in the middle of it. What are you doing? Lyra asked. This is the most beautiful crane in the galaxy, Taeho said. It deserves a place of honor. It is ugly. The wings are wrong. The wings are different. Different is not the same as wrong. Taeho looked at her. My daughter made me a crane once. It looked just like this. Lopsided wings. Crooked neck. I still have it. It is my most precious thing. Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Then, very softly, she asked, You have a daughter? Yes. Her name is Hannah. She lives on Earth. I miss her very much. Why are you not with her? Taeho sat back down on the floor. She is sick. The medicine to make her better is very expensive. I came here to work so I could pay for it. I send her credits every month. That is sad, Lyra said. It is, but I would rather be sad and far away than happy while she suffers. That is what parents do. They give up things for their children. Lyra pulled her knees to her chest. Her voice was very small when she spoke again. My father used to say that. He said he would give up anything for me. Taeho's heart ached. What happened to him? The war. He went to fight and he never came back. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. He promised he would come back. He promised. Taeho did not say anything. He did not tell her it would be okay. He did not promise that the pain would go away. He knew those words were lies. Instead, he simply moved a little closer and sat beside her, not touching, just there. Lyra cried. For the first time in 2 years, she cried openly, with someone beside her, and when she was done, exhausted and empty, she leaned against Taeho's shoulder and whispered one word, Appa. It was Korean. Taeho had not taught her that word. She must have heard him use it in his stories about Hana. It meant father. Taeho felt tears running down his own face. He put his arm around the small alien girl and held her gently. I am here, he said. I will stay. 3 days later, Queen Sarah received a report. Her daughter had spoken more words in the past week than in the previous 2 years combined. The queen read the report twice. Then she did something she had not done since her husband died. She smiled. Not everyone was happy about the princess's recovery. Lord Kale was the queen's cousin. He was tall and cold, with eyes like black ice and a heart to match. For 2 years, he had watched the princess suffer in silence. For 2 years, he had quietly hoped that she would never recover. Because if Princess Lyra remained broken, Queen Sarah would have no heir. And if the queen had no heir, the throne would eventually pass to the next in line. To him, now a human janitor had ruined everything. Lord Kale stood in his private chambers, watching recordings of the princess and her caretaker. He watched them fold paper cranes together. He watched them eat simple human food on the floor. He watched the princess laugh for the first time in 2 years. It made him sick. "This cannot be allowed to continue," he said to his assistant, a thin man named Advisor Bay. "The queen seems pleased, my lord. The queen is blinded by emotion, a human weakness." Lord Kale turned from the screen. "We need to remove this human. Legally. Properly. In a way that even the queen cannot prevent." Advisor Bay nodded slowly. "There may be a way. The Royal Child Development Protocols. Any caregiver to the heir must pass a formal evaluation by the High Council. If they fail, they must be dismissed. Even the Queen cannot overrule the Council on matters of child welfare." Lord Kale smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Has the human been evaluated?" "No, my lord. The Queen appointed him directly. She bypassed the normal process." "Then we must correct that oversight." The next day, Lord Kale stood before the High Council, 12 advisors from across the empire, each one responsible for a different aspect of governance. They listened as Lord Kale presented his concerns. "The human has no training," Lord Kale said. "No qualifications. No understanding of Valen biology or psychology. He was cleaning floors 2 months ago. Now he is responsible for the future of our empire." He pulled up holographic displays showing genetic research, complex charts and graphs that most of the council did not understand. Furthermore, our scientists have found evidence that prolonged human contact could damage Velen neural development. Humans are too emotional, too primitive. Their species bonds irrationally, forming attachments without logic or reason. Lord Kale let the words hang in the air. "I am not suggesting that the human is evil. I am sure he means well. But good intentions do not protect our princess from harm. We must evaluate this caretaker properly. If he passes, he can stay. If he fails, he must go." The council murmured among themselves. Queen Sarah sat on her throne, her face carefully blank. She could not speak against the evaluation without seeming to put her daughter at risk. "Very well," the head counselor said. "An evaluation will be conducted in 3 days. The human will prove his methods have merit, or he will be permanently removed from the princess's care." Lord Kale bowed. "Thank you for your wisdom." As he left the council chamber, he was already planning. The evaluation would be designed to make the human fail. Complex tests, impossible standards, questions with no right answers. The janitor would be gone within a week. Tejo received the news that afternoon. He was sitting with Lyra in her room, teaching her how to make a paper frog, when Minister Gao appeared at the door. "You must come with me," the minister said. His face was grim. "There are things you need to know." Lyra grabbed Tejo's arm. "Where is he going?" "I will be back soon," Tejo said gently. "Keep practicing the frog. I want to see it when I return." He followed Minister Gao through the palace corridors, upstairs and down halls, until they reached a small office far from the royal wing. "Sit down," Minister Gao said. "This is serious." Tejo sat. The minister explained everything. The evaluation, Lord Kale's accusations, the scientific evidence about human emotional contamination. "If you fail this evaluation," Minister Gao said, "you will be banished from Velen's space. You will never see the princess again." Tejo felt cold. "And if I refuse to take it?" "You will be dismissed immediately. Same result." "What kind of evaluation is it?" "I do not know the details, but Lord Kale designed it himself. You can assume it will be difficult, perhaps impossible." Tejo stared at the floor. He thought about Hana, about the credits he was sending home, about her treatments. If he was banished, he could go back to Earth. He could finally see his daughter again. But then he thought about Lyra, about the sound of her laugh, about the paper cranes on her windowsill, about the way she had called him Appa. "I will take the evaluation," he said. That night, after Lyra was asleep, Queen Sira summoned Tejo to her private quarters. It was a simple room compared to the throne chamber. A desk, some chairs, a window looking out at the stars. The queen stood by the window, her back to him. "Why do you stay?" she asked without turning around. Tejo was confused. "Your Majesty? You could take the money you have already earned and return to Earth. Your daughter's treatments are paid for through the end of the year. You could leave tonight and no one would stop you. She turned to face him. Why risk everything for a child who is not your own? Taeho thought about the question. He looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, on a small blue planet, his daughter was sleeping. Because she already lost one father, he said quietly. I know what it means when the adults who are supposed to protect you just leave. I will not do that to her. Queen Sarah studied him for a long moment. Among my people, attachment is considered a weakness. We are taught to control our emotions, to make decisions based on logic, not feeling. Is that why you have not visited your daughter in 2 years? The question was dangerous. Taeho knew it as soon as the words left his mouth. You did not question a queen. You did not accuse her of failing her child. But Queen Sarah did not get angry. She looked away, and for a moment, she seemed less like a ruler and more like a person. I remind her of her father, the queen said softly. We have the same eyes, the same voice. Every time she looked at me, she would start to cry. The doctors said it would be better if I kept my distance. Let her heal in her own time. With respect, Your Majesty, that is stupid. Now Queen Sarah did look angry. Excuse me? Children do not heal with distance. They heal with presence. They need to know that someone will stay, even when things are hard. Especially when things are hard. Taeho took a deep breath. Your daughter does not need you to be a queen. She needs you to be her mother. The silence stretched for a long time. Taeho was certain he had gone too far. He waited for the guards to come and drag him away. Instead, Queen Sarah laughed. It was a small laugh, broken and sad, but real. You humans, she said. You are so strange. You say exactly what you think. You feel everything so deeply. You attach yourselves to others without any guarantee of return. She shook her head. It is terrifying. It is also the only way to live, Taeho said. Queen Sarah looked at him differently now, like she was seeing him for the first time. Win the evaluation, she said. I cannot help you openly. But if you win, I will make sure no one ever threatens your position again. Taeho nodded. I will try. No, the queen's silver eyes were fierce. Do not try. Win. My daughter needs you. And perhaps, she hesitated, perhaps I need to learn from you. She turned back to the window. The conversation was over. Taeho bowed and left the room. He had 3 days to prepare for an impossible test. He had no idea how he was going to pass. The evaluation chamber was filled with important people, lords and ladies in expensive clothes, scientists with tablets and measurement devices, politicians who had traveled from distant planets to witness the spectacle. Lord Kale sat at the front, a satisfied smile on his face. He had designed this evaluation himself. Impossible tests, unfair questions, standards that no one could meet. The human would fail, the princess would be alone again, and the path to the throne would be clear. Taeho stood in the center of the chamber, wearing his simple gray clothes. He had refused the formal uniform they had offered him. If they wanted to judge him, they would judge him as he was. Princess Lyra sat on a small chair at the edge of the room. She had insisted on being present. Her violet eyes were fixed on Taeho, wide with worry. The evaluation will now begin, the head counselor announced. The subject will demonstrate his caregiving methods through a series of tests. Lord Kale, please proceed. Lord Kale stood. Thank you. He gestured to his scientists. We will begin with cognitive assessment protocols. The princess will be asked a series of questions to measure her development under human care. The scientists surrounded Lyra with their devices. They spoke in quick, cold voices, asking questions without waiting for answers. State your full name and title. Recite the first 17 rulers of the Velen Empire. Calculate the distance from Valoria Prime to the third moon in standard units. Lyra froze. The questions came too fast. The scientist stood too close. She began to tremble, and her eyes darted around the room, looking for escape. Taeho watched from across the chamber. He saw the panic building in her face. He saw the old silence trying to take hold again. He knew he should stay where he was. He should let the evaluation proceed. But he also knew that if he did nothing, everything they had built together would be destroyed. He made his decision. "Excuse me," Taeho said, walking forward. "I need to pause this evaluation." Lord Kale's smile widened. "You cannot pause a formal evaluation. Any interference will result in automatic failure. Then I will fail." The room went silent. Lord Kale's smile disappeared. This was not how the script was supposed to go. Taeho walked past the scientists, past the politicians, past everyone, until he reached Lyra. He knelt down in front of her. "Hey," he said softly. "Remember what we do when things get scary?" Lyra's trembling slowed. She looked at him, her eyes wet with tears. "I do not want you to go." "I know. I do not want to go either." Taeho reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. "But first, let us make something together, okay?" He smoothed out the paper and began to fold. Lyra watched, her breathing getting calmer with each crease. "What are you doing?" Lord Kale demanded. "This is a formal imperial evaluation. You cannot just ignore it to play games." Taeho did not look at him. "I am not ignoring anything. I am doing my job. My job is to take care of this child. Right now, she is scared. When a child is scared, you comfort them. You do not test them." He continued folding. Lyra began to help, her small fingers making the creases she had practiced so many times. The scientists looked at each other, confused. This was not in their protocols. Lord Kale's face turned red with anger, but he could not think of what to say. When the crane was finished, Lyra held it up. It was nearly perfect. Better than any she had made before. "Good job," Taeho said, smiling. "That is your best one yet," Lyra smiled back. Then she turned to look at the crowd of important people watching her. "This is for Appa's daughter," she said clearly. Her voice was strong, confident. "Send it to Hana. Tell her. Her Appa loves her very much. And I love him too." The chamber was completely silent. Lord Kale sputtered. "This proves nothing. The human has clearly manipulated the child. He has taught her to perform. Nothing more. We must continue the formal evaluation." "Enough." Queen Sira stood from her throne. Her voice was ice. Her silver eyes were fire. The entire room seemed to shrink before her. "I have watched 15 qualified caregivers fail my daughter," the queen said. "Telepaths, empaths, shapeshifters. Each one came with credentials and training and centuries of experience. Each one ran away or gave up or declared her broken." She walked down from her throne, her gown trailing behind her like silver water. "This human came with nothing. No training, no credentials, no plan. He only came with patience, with kindness, with the simple willingness to stay." She stopped in front of Lord Kale, and he did what no one else could. Lord Kale stepped backward. "Your Majesty, the protocols." "The protocols failed. For 2 years, the protocols failed." Queen Sira's voice rose. "My daughter was dying inside, and your protocols could not save her. But this human, this janitor, he saved her by doing the one thing none of your experts thought to do." "What?" Lord Kale asked weakly. "He cared." Queen Sira turned to address the council. "Humans call it unconditional love. They form attachments without calculation. They stay without contract. They give without expecting return. Our empire sees this as weakness. But perhaps we are the weak ones. Perhaps we have forgotten what it means to truly care for another being." She looked at Taeho, who was still kneeling beside Lyra, still holding her hand. "This man is unqualified by every measure we use," the queen said, "and he has done more for my daughter than everyone in this room combined." She made her declaration. "Park Taeho will remain as royal caretaker. He will be granted full citizenship of the Velen Empire. He will be given a title and lands. And he will establish the first cross-species child development center in our history, based on human caregiving methods." The room erupted in whispers. Lord Kale looked like he had swallowed something rotten. "Furthermore," Queen Sira continued, "his daughter Hana will be brought to Valoria Prime. Her medical treatments will be completed here with the best doctors in the empire, and she will be welcomed as a member of the royal household. Taeho could not speak. He could not move. His daughter, his Hana, coming here. Finally, after 3 years, they would be together again. Tears rolled down his face. He did not try to hide them. Lyra tugged at his sleeve. "Appa, why are you crying?" "Because I am happy," he said. "Sometimes people cry when they are very, very happy. That is strange." "Yes, humans are strange," he hugged her tightly. "But you already knew that." 3 months later, a transport ship landed on the royal platform. Taeho stood waiting, his heart beating so hard he thought it might explode. Beside him stood Lyra, clutching a paper crane in her hands. She had spent hours making it perfect. The ship doors opened. A girl walked out. Hana was 12 years old now, taller than Taeho remembered. Her hair was longer, her face was thinner from the treatments, but her eyes were the same, warm and kind and full of love. "Appa!" she screamed, and ran across the platform. Taeho caught her in his arms and held her so tight he thought he might never let go. 3 years. 3 years of video calls and money transfers and lonely nights. 3 years of missing her so much it hurt to breathe. And now she was here. She was real. She was home. "I missed you," Hana said into his shoulder. "I missed you so much." "I missed you too, little one." Every single day. When they finally separated, Hana noticed the small alien girl standing nearby, watching them with curious violet eyes. "Appa? Who is that?" Taeho smiled through his tears. He reached out and brought Lyra forward. "Hana, this is Princess Lyra. I have been taking care of her while I was away." He looked at Lyra. "Lyra, this is my daughter Hana." Lyra stepped forward nervously. She held out the paper crane with trembling hands. "I made this for you," she said quietly. "I practiced very hard, so it would be perfect." She paused. "I wanted you to like me." Hana took the crane. She looked at it for a long moment. Then she looked at the small alien princess who was so clearly terrified of being rejected. And Hana did something perfectly human. She pulled Lyra into a hug. "It is beautiful," Hana said, "and I already like you. Appa told me all about you in his messages. He said you are very brave." Lyra was stiff at first, surprised by the contact. Velans did not hug, but slowly she relaxed. Slowly she hugged back. "Sister?" she whispered hopefully. Hana looked at her father. Taeho nodded, tears still streaming down his face. "Sister," Hana confirmed. Queen Sarah watched from a balcony above. She saw the human man reunited with his daughter. She saw her own daughter embraced by a new family. She saw something she had not seen in the palace for a very long time. Joy. Beside her, Minister Gao spoke quietly. "The scholars are already calling it the Taeho effect. They say humans have a special talent for forming bonds across species. They are writing papers about attachment theory and emotional investment." Queen Sira smiled. "Let them write their papers. They will never understand it." "Understand what, Your Majesty?" "That love cannot be studied or measured or explained." She watched as Taeho lifted both girls in his arms, spinning them around while they laughed. "It can only be given." Years later, historians would write about the human janitor who changed the Velen Empire. They would analyze his methods and try to copy his results. They would debate the science and the psychology and the politics, but Taeho never cared about any of that. He was too busy making breakfast for his 2 daughters. Too busy breaking up their arguments about whose turn it was to fold the morning crane. Too busy living a simple, happy life in a palace among the stars. On his desk, there was still a lopsided paper crane with uneven wings. The first one Lyra had ever made, the most precious thing in the galaxy. And next to it was another crane, just as lopsided. The one Hana had made years ago on Earth. The one Taeho had carried across the stars. 2 cranes, 2 daughters, 1 family. It was more than enough. On a plaque in the Imperial Archives, there is a quote attributed to Park Taeho, though no one knows exactly when he said it. "Humans are irrational. We love too easily. We trust too quickly. We stay too long. Every logical species in the galaxy thinks this makes us weak. But here is the secret they do not understand. When a human loves you, they do not calculate the cost. They simply stay. And sometimes, staying is the strongest thing anyone can do. The end.